Welcome to the Book Dialogue and our new way of communicating with you.
In our studio, my name is Rebecca.
And my name is Sarah. Thanks for joining us today.
We are in the Book Dialogue studio, and you can see in the back, we are talking about fantasy today. I am surprising Sarah. Surprise.
She knows, my sister Rebecca knows that this gives me great stress, but she also likes to surprise me because she gets a really authentic answer.
She does.
Which is why you do
I
this.
do.
Yes, okay. I am prepared. Give it to me.
Fantasy in our lives. If anyone knows about fantasy, it's you, Sarah. We read Lord of the Rings even before it became a sensation. Well, I'm not certain about that. We're not that old. But I remember reading Lord of the Rings when I was 15.
Mm-hmm.
You have read many more books about fantasy over the years, and I believe that fantasy is something that we need in our lives. Remember when we read A Wrinkle in Time?
Yes, Madeline L'Engle. Mm-hmm.
So, Sarah, why should we read fantasy? And for all of those, take a look at our moon behind. I like this one, don't you, Sarah?
I do. It reminds me of some of the fantasies that I've read that involve werewolves. So, but it's interesting that you speak of fantasy. Fantasy for me is a really unique genre. And I like to think of fantasy as separate from science fiction. And it is predominantly about the extension of the imagination. So when I think about science fiction, which I do enjoy reading,
yes, I do too.
It is still in the realm of the possible, probable, maybe. So we're talking about the development of technology, new worlds, new beings, aliens, the way we can create and we can communicate with those that are so dissimilar to ourselves. So there's an interesting theme there of how science fiction allows us to be able to better understand the importance of communicating with people who don't necessarily share your worldview. Now, science fiction aside, my genre of choice has always been fantasy. And fantasy for me provides the opportunity to blow open the doors of the imagination and your creativity. It allows you to step aside from the reality of everyday life and explore themes and worlds and ideas and ways of living that are beyond what reality would ever offer us as humans.
Now, I'm going to interrupt here and say, fantasy sometimes is reality because we do not know whether there really is fairy circles. I thought for certain when I was young, I saw a fairy circle. And I think that with fantasy, we are allowed to say, maybe.
You raise an interesting point, and actually one that...
I love raising interesting points for Sarah.
And one perhaps that is something that should be considered. We are so quick to say, no, that's not possible. It isn't possible that there are other dimensions, when in fact science has demonstrated that there could very well be other dimensions. The fact is that we can suspend the reality of everyday life to consider that perhaps there are some things within the fantastical world that could be possible.
So what are your favorite?
Oh my.
Yes, no, this is the interesting part because Sarah has read a great number of fantasy books, and she has given me insight into why we need to go with fantasy. It is not something that should be set aside, but something that should be embraced. And I know that there I know that there are many, many people out there that feel the same way. So, Sarah, what books would you recommend?
Oh my goodness, the list is too long. Let me put a few in place. So, depending on your age, there's obviously, I mean, everybody knows the Harry Potter series. Now, I am a fan. I am a fan. But there are many other books that could conceivably be just as good that maybe don't have the same profile. Lloyd Alexander wrote a number of books that were written for, say, preteen teenagers, but you know, even as an adult, you can appreciate them. It was about a pig herder, and he was one of my favorite characters of all time. I am a fan of Eddings. He and his wife did a number of different books. Very interesting that they piggybacked off of a lot of the Tolkien work. Robert Jordan, the first 4 books are worth reading. After that, it becomes a little repetitious, but it does get redeemed at the end. I think about book 13 or 14.
You see what I mean? 13 and 14?
But you know, the one that I really enjoy, and I think I'll get it out of my library again, it's the Myth series. So it's Myth, and it's Robert Asprin. And it is hilarious, absolutely hilarious. He's a wonderful author that mixed fantasy, a bit of science fiction, and humor. And it is fabulous to read. I am highly entertained with those books. There was a number of them. There are a few others.
C.S. Lewis. You cannot
Yes.
forget that one.
Yes.
With Aslan.
Aslan, Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
I have been looking at wardrobes, and often I think maybe this time.
You'll open it up and you'll be transported to Narnia. You know, I think that all of us in reading fantasy books have that small kernel of hope.
Yes, we do.
That these things can be real, that we can explore and really appreciate the supernatural. And I love the question you asked about whether or not it can be found in reality. And I'm going to go out on a limb, and I am going to say that I believe that we can bring fantasy into our life. As you said, if you believe it, does it not make it real?
Oh, and listeners, that's where we're going to leave it for you today. Say it again.
If we believe it, does it not make it real?
I'm going to go with that, Sarah.
I am too. So until next time, why don't you start believing in something that you'd like to make real?
Until next time we meet, dear friends,
Stay well,
keep reading,
and join us next time on another video adventure
with
from
the
moon. From the book dialogue. Have a great day.